Okay guys, another handstand push-up session. I'm doing my dad 30-minute quick session as well. So it's still school holidays at the moment. So I've literally got 30 minutes to train. So I thought I might as well make it even more crazy by going on live at the same time. So normal deal, if you come on and you've got any questions, stick them down in the comments and I'll try and answer them as I go. I'm just doing a handstand push-up session. It's going to be pretty easy. I might do some chin-up muscle-ups as well, depending on time, because now I've got the rings hanging in the garage. I eventually got the bar installed, so I can do some pulling movements as well. So we've got the rings there. I might do some muscle-ups as we go, because I want to try and get my pulling back a bit stronger. So just a general quick warm-up. Like I say, stick any questions down as we go. Me and Rosie are just going to do a quick warm-up. Into the wrists and to the hands. I'll do some easier variations to start with as part of my warm-up for handstand push-ups. So I'm going to do some crow to handstand, frog type stuff. So make the wrists happy. If I am going to do some muscle-up stuff as well, then I need to make sure that my false grip is there. I've noticed recently that just doing way more handstands and less pulling, my false grip needs some warm up because my wrists, I think, are just getting tight in that extension, not doing enough flexion work. So that was a very quick wrist warm up for handstand. That feels okay. Just making sure that I can get a nice open hip, so not being closed through there. So let's see how that feels. Yep, that's good. That's awesome. First 4 seconds, freestyle and handstand. That's great. So I've started the daily hanging as well. So I've started doing 2 minutes minimum hanging in one go. I'm not going to do that now because that'd be super boring. I'll do that later. But I want to try and get up to like 4 or 5 minute hang time. I'm pretty confident that anyone can do that. It's just a case of increasing the volume and the consistency of doing it. Let's just do a few dips on the bars. Picked up these bars yesterday for $20 from a guy down the road. So I'm trying to kit out the garage as best I can. You can probably hear everything cracking. This microphone's too good. Obviously, stick any questions as we go, guys. If you have anything handstand related, mobility related, obviously it doesn't have to be handstand push-ups. I'm going to try do some crow transitions. So something that I add in majority of my programs that I do for people is just getting comfortable in moving their crow position around or frog stand around. So being in this position, so I've got weight in my toes when I'm like this, but if I slowly go forward, takes the head and shoulders down, the hip up, the toes obviously become light. I can transfer weight into the head, go to headstand, and then I can pull back by taking the hip backwards and the shoulder and upper back forwards, and be able to go between the toes touching and the head touching. That's a really good one to warm up and also just get some control in that position. The other one that ties in really nice with that one is that L-sit to shoulder stand. So this one in a L-sit position, hips come up, shoulders come down, back again, and then you can go from that one through to that shoulder stand with straight body, like the bottom of the deficit handstand push-up. Really good warm up. I use those in handstand class as well quite often. Sometimes on a box, we're going from a straddle position. It doesn't have to be an L-sit in a pike position. So using a little bit of momentum now, going from crow to handstand or frog. So hips are low at the moment, shoulders high. So I'm going to bring the head and shoulders down, the hips up at the same time, and push up into handstand. And then get the eccentric, exactly the same. Toes touch, and then go again, hip up, head and shoulders down. Woo! I missed that one. Again, good warm up. You can use momentum. If you don't have the freestanding balance, you could do that one back to the wall and then just go up and kiss the wall at the top. It's an option for that. If you've got a bit more clearance, you can do that on a box or on the P-bars. I'll hit the ceiling if I do that one. I'll do the same thing in a second, but going much slower with the Croda handstand. Just get a little bit more time and attention, demand a little bit more balance as well. Awesome. Yeah, that was the idea with that 5-minute no fluff video. Because most people, if you go to any handstand class around the world or anyone who's teaching hand balancing now, majority of people are using those heel pulls, toe pulls, chest wall handstand because they work. They're like the staples of it. So it just becomes boring if you do that all the time. So I still use that as the main base for your handstand training. And really up to really high levels, you should still, I think, be doing heel pulls and toe pulls at some degree. So let's do that real slow version now. So I'm going to slowly take the head and shoulders down as I take the hip up. Get to the point where the knees become light and then push up from there into handstand. Get a good line, nice and stacked. Same thing, eccentric, coming down, find the knees, slowly take the toes back down. If you do struggle with that one, but you want to do that Croda handstand, we can do the same using the wall. So let's move these out of the way. Where's it? Come up here. Sit down. Good girl. Sit down. Sit down. Sit. So same thing that I just done. So that handstand, we can do the eccentric up against the wall if you don't have the control to do the up movement or the freestanding version. So I'll turn the hands out, so externally rotated, so it doesn't be so hard on the wrists. I'll take the back to the wall first. So now everything's against the wall. And then I'm just going to frog down. So bring the knees nice and close to my torso or to the wall. I'm going to roll down, take knees to elbows, and then come all the way out. That one, the wall gets in the way a little bit as you come down. So you push straight into the wall with your back. So you will need to have your hands a little bit further away, or just realize that you're not going to be able to hold that crow position. Now, obviously, if you have a little bit more control, we could do exactly the same thing. Have the wall there if you need it. But now I'm coming down and I'm not touching the wall, but I'm still rolling through the spine. Find the knees, and then I can just kiss the floor at the bottom. So doing them really slowly is obviously going to get lots of time under tension throughout the movement. Yeah, cool. One leg at a time is really good as well. It's a good way. You can do the eccentric with one leg. So if you can go into this position and lift one leg like this, you still feel really heavy. If you start to play with the eccentric, so you could do it up against the wall. So there, and then see if you can bring one leg down, bend the elbow, and just try and find the elbow as you come down. If that's too hard, against the wall, same thing, back against the wall, bend the arms, try and find one elbow. It's just the wall was really tricky in terms of getting enough weight forwards to counterbalance the hips and legs coming in the opposite direction. But it really is just trying to get more weight into the arms and upper back and shoulders and decreasing the weight in the legs. Okay, let's go. Yeah, cool. Let me know how you go with those ones. They're pretty good. So So let's go, what's called that? What's called now? Jeez. Down dog position, so doing a pike push-up. So I recommend everyone does this, even if you don't feel strong enough to do the full movement, just do this part. So be in the down dog position. If you've got super tight hamstrings, you might need to bend the knees, but I'm going to round the upper back, take the shoulders forwards. Then if I feel like I've got enough strength, bend the elbows, but if not, just come back again. So just condition that upper back and shoulders going to there, coming back. And then what we can start to do is do it the opposite, or not the opposite, do the big next movement. So to there, bend the elbows, bring the elbows into the side, try and kiss the floor with the head. We'll go to a yoga block or something as a target, and then come back. So open, shoulders, and then forwards, elbows in, head kisses the floor, and back again. And just to start to get some control there, try and stay that direction with the shoulders and upper back as you do the movement, and not fall back towards the feet. Yeah, you can definitely train planche and handstand push-up in the same session. You could look at that as being a push session. So in terms of push, you could do a combination of straight arm and bent arm. Or the other way to do it is to do handstand push-ups and chin-ups. So bent arm movement, both pushing and pulling. And then you'd have a straight arm day where you'd do things like planche, skin the cat, front lever pulls, stuff like that where the arms stay straight. So you could have a straight arm day and a bent arm day, or you could have a push day, or handstand push-ups, planche, press handstand even, but it's getting quite big when you do all three of those. So I'd either do planche and handstand push-ups, should be fine together. You just got to watch your volume. If you're up to it level-wise, you could go planche and handstand push-up like in the same set. So you just superset the two. But obviously the one you do second is going to not be as intense, so you're going to have less time under tension in a harder variation of the second movement. So you just got to play with what priorities you have and try and ride the one that's the biggest priority first. Just see how you go, because it's obviously dependent on where your conditioning is for each movement. I tend to do more keyboard bent arm sessions together and then all straight arm sessions together. Okay, let's do eccentric now. So I'm just going to do a slow eccentric. If you're not up to this level of going all the way down on an eccentric, still start to understand and study the position that happens. So watch me as I go slow. I'm just going to go from a straight handstand, take the head and shoulders forwards, and the feet will go backwards to make like that shoulder stand angled body line position. So there's my start, so nice and stacked. But then I'm going to take the shoulder forwards, feet backwards. Then the elbows start to bend, elbows come into the midline, come all the way down, and then kiss the forehead to the floor, hold, and then come back down again. So understanding that path that comes down like that angle, and then obviously when you go back up, you go back up like that. So trying to keep balance for a movement is really important. Now, if you don't have that freestanding, you could do that with the toes kissing the floor, but try and make sure that you come down to that triangle. So head in front of the hands to make a triangle in the bottom position, because you want to be like hair and push in. So there, see the head's behind the hands. We don't want to be hair, because that's going to run you into a horrible pressing position. So that's going to make you feel much stronger coming down to there. Yeah, like I play a lot of my work that I do in terms of my training, in terms of bodybuilder type movement, power, strength, and things like that, because I have the skills quite good already. So like, you know, things like press, handstand push-ups and that, I can rep out those quite comfortably. So, and same with handstand push-ups. I'm not working the skill so much. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is more maintaining, because I'm not actually going for more repetitions or increase in strength. I'm trying to maintain more. So it all depends where you are in terms of your level and what you're aiming for. If you're going for things like handstand push-ups, but you're not strong enough to do a handstand push-up, then you obviously have to think, I need to go like more 5x5s, more strength training, sets and reps, as opposed to you're super strong and you just need to work on the technique and the balance of the movement. So it is really dependent on the individual, and not try to tick all those boxes at the same time, because they're really hard to do all of those things.
Yeah, they said they were already, they've been watched, it's a bit of some phase.
Okay, I'm going to go to full push-up now. I'm going to go all the way back up again. So I'm just going to kick to handstand, do exactly the same as what we've done last time. Actually, I'm going to get rid of the hat because I'll cheat, won't be a full rep. So that straight body line position, shoulders come forwards, feet come backwards, elbows come in. I'm going to kiss the floor with the head. So there, and then back up, same thing in reverse. So the shoulders back open to that straight position.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
So again, if you're doing that up against the wall, we want to try and have exactly that same movement. So it comes down like this. My hands are here, my head and shoulders come in front of the hands, kiss the floor, come back to that position. So the better you can become at that, the more efficient it's going to be, and it's going to be easier. I don't really tend to do any type of periodization. My training specifically is just trying to more maintain. So I'm not really following, a strength phase or a skill phase. However, I've got a few skills that have dropped off because I haven't been doing them as much, or I haven't achieved them yet. So I'm trying to now reprogram those. So I will be going through periods of different styles of training as I do that. So on the new skills I'm going for, yes, but on things like planche, handstand push-ups, presses, I more or less leave the training the same in terms of tempos and reps and sets, and don't play with it too much, and just aim for consistency. Interestingly enough, with the periodization, most people I've seen train in terms of, because I've been PTing for like 20 years, don't actually train consistently enough to need a real detailed periodized program. Things like having a deload week and things like that tend to naturally happen. So, you might get sick, you might be on holiday, or you might just be busy at work. So suddenly you don't train for that week as much. There's your deload session. So just be careful in terms of all the real detailed program and periodizing your training to a point where it's that specific and that detailed. I think a lot of people don't actually need that. They just need the consistency of the basic movements. So I hope that helps. It's a bit confusing and very hard to answer things when it's, you don't know all the details. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the handstand push-up now. I'm going to go to a deficit. No, I'm not, because I don't have two steps. I'm going to let's keep it this one. So not the deficit, I'll just add reps. So I'll get 3 reps. Now I'm a slight deficit. I'm on a mat, if I want to call that a deficit. So you'll notice now that with repetitions, I'm speeding up the tempo. 2, 3. So that was quite comfortable, 3 reps at that tempo. So normally I would go to a deficit. I do struggle with the seating here. So once I finish the live, I'll probably go into some more deficits outside. Guys, any other questions while I'm on? Again, it doesn't have to be handstand push-up related. It could be any training. Okay, what I'll do next, for in here, for the live session, I'll just demo eccentrics again. So let's go back to that. So instead of doing a floor eccentric, which is probably the harder one to catch the bottom position because your head has to kiss the floor in line with your hands, I'm going to deficit a little bit more and go on the P-bars. So now what you'll notice is I'm going to run out of space because I can't handstand on these, but I can still do the deficit part of the bottom, which I think most of you guys need to be focusing on, is having a strong balance in the catch position at the bottom of the handstand push-up. I think that's where the body changes direction. So you finish the eccentric and then you push back out of the concentric. having a real strong bottom position is really important. So if I come up here, where's the ceiling? So obviously normally the body would be straight, and then I'm just going to take shoulders forwards. So as I come down, it's going to get a little bit easier because I bring the arms into the side, so my arms are actually touching my torso. And there's the bottom position of the deficit handstand push-ups. Now, if I don't have that eccentric to it, I could have a box here, step off the box, and step into the bottom. So there I could train this separately. If you feel like you could back splat, have the wall behind you or have a spotter, and then just come in and out of that slowly. So you start to learn that catch position at the bottom of the handstand push-up. So that's really useful. Recommend everyone works that shoulder stand position, even if you're just working handstands. Just need to send a quick message. Okay. What are your advices to counterbalance properly the underbalance? Okay, so underbalance is probably the most important thing from a, I'm not sure if you mean for handstand push-up or just balance the handstand in underbalance. Either way, they're both very, very important. Probably the most important thing about having a consistent handstand that you always can get into, and then a consistent handstand that you can do handstand push-ups, presses, and all the drills if your underbalance is really strong. So basically underbalance means you're falling back towards your feet or you haven't kicked all the way up. So the shoulder stand is actually a really good example of underbalance. So becoming strong there. So if I kick up to a handstand position and purposely don't go all the way to handstand, that's you're catching in underbalance. So if I kick up now and be a little bit behind, so there, whoop, see there, look, I nearly fell then, and I saved it by bending my elbows in towards the underbalance. I could take the shoulders forwards. There's underbalance. Watch how slow I can come down because I have that strength and control in the underbalance of the handstand. So becoming strong in that position, both with handstand push-up type movements, so by bending the elbows or by doing things like the toe pull drill. So probably my favorite freestanding handstand drill. So being this way on the wall and then using the shoulders to come forwards of the hands. So there. So learning how to control this. This is my underbalance. So I'm slowly making that stronger and wider. And notice it's the start of the handstand push-up. It's the start of the press. If you're in a handstand already, you take the shoulders forwards. So becoming strong through there and spending a lot of time in your training and in your balance, then you will be able to just be way more efficient in your handstand as well. So presses, handstand push-ups, and the handstand balance itself will just be way more consistent. One-arm pull-ups. I've got a one-arm pull-up once on one side. I'm definitely not the expert on doing one-arm pull-ups. However, I have trained towards them and did have eccentrics on both sides. I definitely don't have them at the moment. But I'm planning to work back towards at least having good eccentrics on both sides. Something like a one-arm pull-up for most people, unless you're like a climber or someone that's doing lots of volume or naturally really strong in pulling, it needs to become a priority. So you need to be training it multiple times a week in some way. The same as the one-arm handstand. You're not going to sort of get a one-arm handstand by accident. It has to basically take over as priority. And I feel like the one-arm chin would be exactly the same. So it's that much down the pointy end of the skill line that you have to use a lot of your training time to be geared towards it. So you're probably looking at four to five, maybe even 6 times a week to get a one-arm chin up. But like I say, I'm not an expert at training people towards that. I have done it myself, but not trained too many people to get it. Just because people tend to come to me more for the handstand skills. So for presses, press handstand compression wise, first of all, you just need to check that you do have the flexibility. If you have flexibility and strength in flexibility in the hamstrings for like a forward fold flex, you don't actually need that much compression. So like some people would call that compression, that's flexibility. So I'm not actively doing anything here. And look, I can push it up and press to handstand very comfortably there, just because I can get the hip on top of the hands by using the upper back and shoulders and have the flexibility to do it. So number one, in terms of press handstand compression, if you want to call it compression, but I don't call it compression unless you're actively pulling the two parts together, the torso and the legs. So I would say that's flexibility and just hanging out in the position. So forward folds, Jefferson curls, if you're up to it, like wushu, bouncing, that type of thing. Obviously, it depends where you're at on your line of hamstring stretching, calf stretching. I would do that as priority. And then you can do like leg lifts, leg circles, pipe lifts, L-sits, V-sits, toes to bar. Toes to bar is a really good one because it's working that strength as well. And it carries over to other movements. Skin the cat, like a real tight skin the cat is good as well. But flexibility would be number one for the press handstand stuff. Thank you. No, I mean, you can get a very good shoulder stand position with just tuck shoulder stand, really understanding the position. Just remember with a tuck shoulder stand, you need to understand how to open out. So if you're in a tuck position and your torso's this angle, which is like normally correct for a shoulder stand, you got to be careful you're not here and then your legs are counterbalancing you, because when you put the legs on top, you'll fall over. So what you want to make sure in a tuck shoulder stand is that you're in that position. So you have this angle. And then when you open the legs out in that same angle. If you get that wrong, you'll back splat. So understanding that, then it really carries over. So if I do a tuck shoulder stand here, and this is like if you can hold a crow position, you can definitely hold a shoulder stand. But if you're in the right position, just remember that your torso can rest on your upper arms in that position. So you might want to externally rotate the hands if you're up on a box or on the edge of a box or wall or something. If you're on P-bars, ideally have these sort of type of P-bars where you can turn them. So I've turned them outwards slightly, which will help to get the arms into the side. And then I'm in my tuck there. So that's what I mean, is that I can open and close. And I can just spend time here. So I get up to like 20, 30 seconds, which shouldn't take you that long if you're in the right position. Just video yourself from the side and you'll be able to see your line, whether you're in the right position or not. Okay, let's have a look. I think I've answered everything on there. If you're starting to get to the point as well where your shoulder stand is strong, so you guys that have strong shoulder stand positions already, maybe you have eccentric handstand push-ups, working towards a bent arm planche or just a double arm croc position in the bottom is really useful. It's not particularly hard compared to some of the other movements, but looks pretty cool. So doing something like this. So externally rotating the hands and then pushing the shoulders forwards of the hands. So being in this position, so I've externally rotated the hands so my elbows can come into my torso, and then I'm just going to push forwards and don't stop. So keep going forwards. See if you can get the elbows off. So notice I'm in straddle, and then I come back. Now there is good contact between my upper arm again and my torso, like a shoulder stand. So, and you can go into quite an open straddle position that makes it less demanding than the straight position. But there I was able to talk when I done that position in a straight position, or if I was doing a bent arm planche, I probably wouldn't be able to talk. And then you can do a handstand down to that position. So let me show that if we can get Rosie to sit over here. Come on, Rosie, sit down. Sit, lay down. Good girl, lay down. Good girl. So I'll go down into that position. And again, if you have the eccentric, obviously you need the eccentric freestanding, not against the wall, because you'll headbutt the wall with this one. So it's hands in that same position that I just practiced, that bottom position of that bent arm planche position. You can open the legs out, make it a little bit easier. Elbows come in, head comes forwards, push up, hold, come back in. That's one that's pretty, not easy, but is accessible once you've got that eccentric and shoulder stands are pretty comfortable. Then you can start to play with opening out from there. And a cool one for that, I'll show that in a second, is the playing with entering that bent arm planche or peacock or croc, we're going to call it, position on the shoulder stand on the P-bars. You can lean forwards and go into it and then come back again. Play with the two movements. You can do it on the rings as well. I will start doing, now I've installed a bar now in the garage so I can hang the rings up. So I can start to do some muscle up and some ring stuff if anyone's interested in playing with those. So what I was talking about there, Rosie obviously wants to be in the limelight. So exactly the same, turning the bars out slightly. I'll go into my shoulder stand. Actually, no, let's not go shoulder stand. I'm going to start in a support position. Now, support position on these bars, I'm a bit stuck because my feet touch the floor. So I'm going to bend the knees slightly to get from a height point of view to stop the toes touching the floor. But exactly the same type of movement. So knees bent there. Ideally, they'll be straight. Elbows into the side. Pull round. And then I can go into shoulder stand. Or I can come forwards and be in that position. And then back to support position. Now you notice that my voice went a bit funny on some of the transition part because it gets quite hard when you're leveling out and have to push forwards. But that's, again, was one that's accessible for most people on the P-bars. It's a little bit harder on the rings to get that movement. So you have to really pull yourself forwards. But again, learning to counterbalance. So you think your hands are here and then your shoulders and your upper body's here somewhere. It counterbalances the legs in some way. So depending on what shape you have your legs, how heavy your upper body is, how heavy your lower body is, you need to get good at working out where you need to be at the position. So if I'm in a shoulder stand, it's pretty similar to nearly being straight up and down. But if I'm in that straight body position on the floor, that needs to be very spot on. If not, it's going to mess with you in terms of strength, balance, and just the ability to do it. In a straddle handstand, should the body be slightly arched instead of hollow? You have to find a position that's good for you. The big thing with straddle, if you want to add to your planche training for one-arm handstands and things like that. So when you open, your legs should come that way, your hips should go backwards a little bit, depending on how piked you are in the straddle. So if you have more of a straddle split, you'll have a less of a pike. Which will demand a different spinal position. But I'll show you my position. So there's my straight handstand. So then when I open, my hips go backwards, my feet come forwards. So that's like a comfortable position for me. So if I was to one arm, I would keep the straddle there in that position. So you notice it's roughly the same as that. And that's what I mean about finding your straddle position that carries over to coming down to straddle planche or doing a straddle handstand push-up 90 degrees. It needs to be locked in. So you need some sort of flexion, so pike flexion and some sort of straddle that matches your flexibility. And you don't want to go into a position that blocks you. So you see some people will go into a straddle, especially if they're pretty tight. Instead of being here with their straddle, they'll be more like this, and they'll end up like this. And that still one arm there, or to go down into a handstand push-up, or to do a straddle movement, straddle front lever or something, that's going to really mess you up in terms of positioning, and then just the spine is going to want to change when you move your body. So to do that one arm handstand that I just done, I had to lock everything in. I don't want any moving parts. Come over and then I can lift the arm up because I don't have this movement happening in the spine. So I hope that helps. I mean, the good way to see your straddle position is just do what I done, video from the side on. And then it should make sense whether you're in the right position or not. And then just compare your straddle. I know I'm saying it's different for everyone, but in terms of it looking comfortable, you'll see anyone that has, you know, a one-arm handstand or a 90-degree handstand push-up and straddle planche and stuff like that, their straddle will look that it's correct. And it won't look wrong. If yours looks wrong for your body type or for your position that you're in, you might not know how to fix it, but it should stand out that it's wrong. Okay, guys, I'm going to hang about for 5 more minutes. So let me know if there's any other questions. Let's see if I can get a 90-degree handstand push-up. I'm not going to be able to do them on the bars just because the ceiling height, but I'll do one on the floor if I can. I'll try as best I can to how to do a straight body version. So ideally 90 degree, eventually if you've gone past straddle, as you just stay straight, comes back again. So the body line looks like it does that. Toes kiss the floor without piking too much. Sometimes I stop a little bit early and my hips pike and touch the floor. The toes touch the floor. Let's see what happens. It's a nice turned out hands, a little bit wider than normal from a handstand position. Toes touch, hopefully there. Ooh, push. Makes it harder when I talk. So that wasn't too bad. I lost the position a little bit and I got a bit stuck on the way through, but because my balance is good, I never got to the point where I was fighting the balance. If I was fighting the balance where I got stuck then, I wouldn't have made it back up out of the handstand push-up. Hey Paul, how you doing? Anisha, done answered that one. How far should I take my elevated pike push-ups? Would you still hip height in terms of height, then move to chest or handstand push-up? I would get rid of the pike push-ups as soon as you can do repetitions elsewhere. Because what you want to think about with your handstand push-ups, for most people, you do need to gain a little bit of strength in the movement. So unless you're super strong, then we do need to gain some strength there. So you want to be in the like 3 to 6 rep range for sets. If not, you're just not going to get enough volume of time under tension to get stronger. You know, if you can roughly go over 5x5, so the pike push-up, that's where that is for a lot of people, is that 5x5 sort of area. But as soon as you can get on the wall, I would get on the wall as well. So I would do, maybe depending on where you're at, obviously, do your pike push-ups for your volume and then do some wall eccentrics, or see if you can walk your feet back up the wall on a concentric for like single reps. So then you have a 5 rep pike push-ups, and then you have your wall reps where you do 2 reps of 1 to 2 repetitions. And then eventually the 5 reps or 3 to 6 reps will go into the wall handstand push-ups. And great. And look what Paul's just put there. So Paul's been training for a while for his handstand push-ups. He's been banging them out. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably would have seen some of his videos. He's just got his first full freestanding handstand push-up last week. Finally found the sweet spot and the balance. So that's a massive thing with the handstand push-ups as well, is just finding the sweet spot. So most of you guys that are training towards the handstand push-up, it's not because you're too weak. You know, some of you guys will be stronger than me, but can't do 1 handstand push-up, and I can do like 12. So that I'm not 12 times stronger than you. It's because I've found that sweet spot, and even can I let my my overbalance or the sweet spot drive me out of the handstand, the bottom of the handstand push-up. So a good example is that Croda handstand, frog position. So here, if I try and push up now, like that, it's really hard because I'm hanging out in the underbalance. So now I know I say underbalance is really good from a balance point of view, which it is, but we want the overbalance to kick us into the handstand. So now if I do that same thing, but I dip down and go to more overbalance, it's nearly like I'm falling that way. But see how easily I went up? I nearly fell into the handstand. So that's what we want us to help us. So that's what we talk about, that sweet spot in the handstand. And when you're doing your chest to wall handstand push-ups, that can, especially if you're not using enough overbalance or don't get into the right position, you're leaning against the wall. So it's like leaning in that underbalance. And that's why you nearly drag yourself up, which is really hard. So learning to overbalance is really good. Any tips to lock my elbow? Hang every day. Like that's probably the best way. You can do thoracic extension, opening up the shoulders, the upper back. It's lack of mobility somewhere, or normally that's why the elbows are. So with your handstand balance, go a little bit wider. Don't make yourself go really close and force you to have bent elbows. But hanging, so if I hang every day, hands shoulder width apart, passive hang, make sure you have your thumb fully around the bar as well, so you're not escaping out of the flexibility anyway. Try and have a straight body line position, so open hip, don't be closed hip. So ideally hang somewhere that you can hang fully. That's the best way to straighten out and hit all of those points at the same time in terms of stretching the body and making it as long as possible and get rid of the bendy elbows. That would be my number one thing. And then if you can't hang or you don't have anywhere to hang, foam roller, thoracic extension. So one of these, or a yoga block, something like that, and just get into this upper back. So that type of thing. Because most people, obviously, without assessing, I'm guessing a bit, but most people are stuck in this position, and when that person puts their arms above their head, they look like this. So we want to look like that. So opening up all that back and hips. Okay, guys, I've gone over time as normal. So if there's any other questions, stick them in now. I should do another handstand push-up, really. I didn't do any muscle-ups. I was going to do muscle-ups. Just thinking what handstand push-up to do next. I'll try and do a dead press. So dead press is harder than a 90 degree because you're coming from that dead position on the floor. I'm going to show you a little bit of a cheat with it as well because I'm not as strong as I was. I need to try and get back doing a few bit more volume. But I'm going to lay down in position. I'm going to create tension before I come up. So you see some people, if you look at like Monster or someone like that, do these. They'll be able to lay on the floor and they've got no weight in their hands and they just put their hands down on the floor and then they push up into handstand. So I struggle with that. I need to create tension first. And the other thing I'll do to cheat a little bit is I'm going to arch my body. So I'll let my knees bend and sort of curl up to it. So it's a bit like a half lay handstand push-up or a dead press. So let's see what happens. So I'll try as best I can to come up straight. Rose is just to straighten everything. Good. Lay down there. Lay down. Lay down. Try and do the finale. Lay down. Good girl. Lay down. Yes. That's it. Okay. Let's see if I can do it. So hands are definitely externally rotated a little bit wider so I can get it very far forwards with the shoulders. See what I mean about the knees bending and arching the body up? And I create that tension before I went into it as well. So it's not the textbook ideal dead press, but it allows me to normally get one every time when I try and do them. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off now, but stick any comments down below and I'll answer them. If you're not subscribed, thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated. And I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.